His running the show here anyways.
No, that's, I am a member of a committee of which.
Oh, sorry.
Big Brady's a
Committee,
member,
sorry, Greg and Lou.
And also Tim Shoots on that
Tim,
committee.
yes.
So all I'm gonna do is, everybody got a copy of this? And then I'd like to revisit a couple of things we talked about because it's been a month. Okay. This is basically a bullet outline of the recommended decisions that our committee made, okay? It's not put in the context of the ordinance, you know, because we have to integrate it with accessory buildings, internal accessory dwelling units and all that. So there has to be some how this fits into our existing ordinance, but we wanted to make sure before we did that we agree on all the points we're gonna insert, okay? Okay, so just reviewing what we did last time, I don't think anybody's got any problem. This is not a flag lot. It's not a subdivision. It doesn't have to meet all the requirements of a sub lot and all that, okay. The next one, I wanna have us kind of revisit what we were talking about here. And that is, it can't be constructed no closer than 6 feet behind and not to the side of the existing primary residence. And our issue was what happens when you're on a cul-de-sac with
With a wedge-shaped lot that you have like a tiny backyard, but big side yards.
Right. So, and did we ever kind of decide what we're gonna do with that? Or did we decide you're gonna go and look at every ordinance in the state of Utah and find somebody that's got language?
Somebody was like making notes on that and had kind of a verbiage there that we were gonna go along with, I can't even remember anymore.
See, that's my problem. All I put is adjust for cul-de-sac. That's all I put down in my notes.
I thought that if they match kind of their house, then we
No,
wouldn't.
but it's not the way the accessory building thing states is if it's up, it can't be in front of the house. If it's behind the house, we're not gonna say what it looks like. If it's up to the side of the house, then it has to match the design of the house. That's what our current ordinance says, okay?
Right, which, yeah.
So, which is reasonable, okay, we'll let you sneak it up to flush with the house, but if you do, it's gotta look like it belongs there, okay?
Okay, yeah.
But I'm not so sure that's where we ended up.
So like in my situation, I could push it back as far as I can, but it would have to be on the northwest corner of my house, and it would be out to the side of my house and back towards the back property.
Well, the issue is you can't keep it behind the back line of your house. If you use your house as the back line.
Yeah.
What if you use the distance to the street? In other words,
And I think that's what we were talking about last time.
So you're
Establishing a distance from the street kind of thing.
which would be, and how
How you do that around cul-de-sac.
yeah. that's
We did that on single-family dwellings. We did that on single-family dwellings where we measured up the property line and then came across.
Or you could put something like, irregular shaped lots get, approval by city engineer or something, or city.
That opens, that just creates that's just transferring the problem.
Because then
Yeah.
the people with like already have like accessory buildings and stuff, and their lots are now irregular because of that, and they still have room enough to put a thing on there, but it wouldn't match this, could still say, hey, I can.
See, my concern is if we could say you establish the nearest point at the back of your house. You measure, you've got two ends.
Yeah, easy.
And you get the nearest one to the street and use that as the minimum distance. You understand what I'm saying? So it will, to me, that sort of meets what we're trying to accomplish. So the minimum distance between the back of the dwelling and the street, either side, is what you use for the setback, for the distance it has to be from the street.
So is there a minimum distance from the street to the back side of a house?
Well, no, we're trying to match the house.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is make this be in back of the house, in the backyard. Well, isn't that the gist of it? You want the accessory building to be in the backyard.
Right.
Well, in your case, the backyard is kind of ill-defined because
It's mostly
it's
side
side
yard,
right.
with a little strip of
Exactly.
backyard behind the house.
So what do you want to do with this? I mean, I'm trying to address
You
what
can't
you're
put something
saying.
that's like reasonable exceptions can be made.
No.
No,
Because then it just
then you
opens
do
and
it-
everybody's like, I want an
Yeah.
exception, I
Yeah.
want an
I'll tell you,
exception.
I will never vote for the word exception
Or reasonable.
or reasonable.
Yeah, I would never vote for reasonable.
You got lots of problems with that.
Yeah.
What's reasonable to me is.
They would come in and say, that would be their first argument. This is reasonable.
Yeah,
And they would
yeah.
sit there and argue
And
about
who's,
what's
yeah,
reasonable
who's
for the rest of
predicting
the-
reasonable?
Maybe you don't get to build one.
Yeah, maybe you have a side yard, you don't get one.
Oh, what about that? Putting language that would basically say it can't be closer than the distance of the nearest corner of your house to the street. I mean, that's garbage language, but what I'm basically saying is you've got two back corners to your house
Yeah,
and there's a distance between those and the street.
yeah.
There shouldn't be a lot of difference because normally you kind of square it up at the street
So
anyway,
hold
right?
on, can you go back a step? Because, and I have missed the last meeting where you guys really truly started to discuss this, but
Are you trying, is the goal to have the accessory dwelling behind the complete house or just behind the front of the home?
Well, the way the ordinance.
House.
The rear of the house, so that it's not any closer than the rear of
We,
your
we,
already
we wanted it
existing
to,
home.
we wanted to take the
We wanted
back
it
line of the house and put it behind that.
Okay,
But if you had a
Correct.
side yard that you could pull it out,
or you don't have a backyard, but you have a side, okay.
but I would have to pull it out from behind and forward a little bit.
Well, the problem is, if you've got a curved street and a square back to your house, and you're using the back house line to set the frontage distance from the street, which doesn't make sense because the street's curved.
Could you define it as if you have over this many feet on your side yard, you're eligible to be able to do it that way? So that there's a measurement?
I'd rather just say on cul-de-sacs.
Okay, sorry, on cul-de-sacs,
I
okay.
would.
So that's what sorry, I missed that part
No,
then.
yeah,
Okay,
and we're not
Just on
messing around with
cul-de-sacs.
corner lots or anything
Yes.
else. We're talking about,
Cul-de-sacs.
you've got a curved street in front of your house.
Okay.
Isn't that really what we're?
Yeah.
the only thing is
I think it's kinda like this.
corner lots would,
There you go.
There's your situation.
corner lots would look more
So-
aesthetically pleasing to have.
This
some of
side, I
the
don't
same
have enough room,
features.
but this side, I have a lot of room over here.
That you could do
And
something.
you don't want to take the straight line of your house, which could put you substantially farther away from the street than the back of your house is.
Yeah, I could,
That's why I'm saying measure the distance of the back of your house to the street and use that as the line, the distance.
Where would you be able to fit one then?
like that, so you measure like that, and then you could stick that one over here. Like that.
And the setback would be
Yeah,
on the property
So in
line.
effect, if you were on a straight street, that thing would be no closer to the street than the back of your house. That's all you're doing. You're just,
Okay.
or on a rounded, it would
Right, all
have
you're
to be at
doing.
least the
instead
distance
of
to the
measuring,
back of your.
yeah, instead of measuring from a straight back of your house, you're measuring from the distance and then
So
accommodating.
kind of like, is that what you
Yes,
had
that's
in mind?
exactly what I'm talking about.
And then there'd be a 15-foot setback on the side.
Oh, the setback on the sides doesn't change.
No, okay.
Yeah.
From your neighbor.
Yeah, that doesn't change. So, does somebody want to get,
And so, just so I'm knowing this right, on a traditional lot, it just needs to be behind, but it can still be offset. It doesn't need to be directly behind. Okay.
no,
Just
no,
making
we're
sure I'm
not,
just catching
they
up.
have a side
Behind the
setback
plane of the house.
and it behind the back line of the house, and that's it.
There's a side setback from the side yard and a rear setback from the rear fence property line.
Yeah.
Similar to like if they're building accessory, a
Right,
regular
but
accessory
We're not
building.
changing those, they gotta,
Because these are limited to single story.
Okay,
okay, so, since you created this,
I did the last one, you take care of the.
We're
look
limited on
verbiage.
We're limited on to single stories?
I hate
Well,
this
and
taking
didn't we-
turns.
hold on, so single story and,
Okay, let's go, that's.
and square footage?
So we got-
Okay,
we
go
got
for
all
it, sorry.
that.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we
good,
got
sorry.
through that one.
So we're all in agreement in concept, it's just a matter, I'll try to draft language that makes sense, and then I'll subject it to scrutiny of this group, okay? And it'll be shredded, no, I won't be. Okay, number 3, it must be a single-family unit, slab on grade, no duplex, basement, or multifamily facility. No, I don't think we had any problem with any of that.
This means single story?
Well,
Yeah,
no.
single,
No,
well,
it's
single
coming
stories
up.
coming
Yeah,
up.
that's coming up.
Okay, and we were going to have Nate revise the next part. It must, and that gets to the share, the utility service, the primary residence.
Yeah.
And the issue there was with
One of the utilities said
one
no.
of the utilities. What was it?
No,
Was it
all of them want shared utilities. They do not want separate utilities.
Well, that's what we,
But Nate talked to them after our last meeting.
Yeah.
And they were starting to waver a little bit on that.
Okay. If that's changed since like your last meeting, then
okay,
yes.
who wants to talk to Nate
I
and
will,
find out
'cause
the
I'll
gospel
see
from
him,
him?
yeah.
Because we're leaving, they're telling us.
Because
what
really
they
the
want.
only one is going to be, because the city will be the sewer, it's gonna be Bonavista if they're wavering.
It was Bonavista. And he said that he was trying to talk to him about that and they were wavering a little bit. Somebody over there was wavering a little bit.
The only thing, well, I guess, did Nate say that he cared about gas and electric? Because I wouldn't be opposed to those being metered separately. Just because if someone's renting it, it's always easier. If this stays single level,
Well,
nothing
why
on
don't
it.
we care? Why does it bother us that if the utility company will do it?
Yeah.
Why not?
Right.
Sure. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd do it for
If
every
the-
one of them.
If the
they-
utility company, I would leave this,
At the discretion of the
the
utility.
the EADU must share utility services, the primary residence in accordance with the or the proper,
I think we do need to be specific about sewer and water, though.
They're gonna have to cut the asphalt for that.
Well, yeah, and those specific ones don't want second ones.
Could you talk to them and then draft
Yeah.
a replacement statement for this?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like we're gonna split the decision probably before we're done.
up to the utilities. Yeah.
So some will say it has to be
Well,
shared
the
and the
city
other
is gonna
one.
be the sewer, so
Now, they
I'll
can
ask.
share
Nate
all of
for a
them
copy.
if they wish. That we're not telling them they can't. do.
Right, they could
But
share
if you're
also.
renting it out, you
But-
probably
but-
want that
but
one.
what
to
we're
be-
doing
Especially
is
if it's
saying what
standing
you
as-
can or cannot.
If it's
separate.
standing alone, there's no like, and then we'll talk about that. Say it's standing alone, why wouldn't you have a separate gas meter and power meter? Because then your renter's paying their utilities. And they can have their own Comcast
You
run
could- You
too.
could charge them
Or,
for
yes,
for
or
your
you
rent.
can.
So either way,
right.
they're paying for it.
If I'm really using it as that's my sole use of it, I'd want it to be on its own.
I'm just
meters.
thinking, with secondary water, it's very easy. You got it coming into the, you know, the. and
No,
you-
secondary water.
Second
you're not
water, they-
worried about.
You can, you tie it in, you just run a separate, I mean,
No, secondary water you don't worry about at all. You're not changing anything.
That's your yard.
Yeah.
That's your yard.
Yeah, it's your yard.
And the house is gonna be in
The
your
primary
yard, so-
person will take care of the
about
yard.
electricity, gas and Bonavista
You're thinking Farmington.
and sewer.
So
You're
sewer,
thinking Farmington where they want to chop off the half of the lot and give them give them the
Okay,
property.
can you?
Yes, I'll check on all of
sort
them.
this out so we'll know what. Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't that our committee had any, this was primarily the public works people that were, had their hands
well,
in
they were
this one.
specifically told by Central Weaver and Bonavista that they did not want to have another lateral run, another thing put in the street, another meter, all that became an over on their
Well,
I
system.
don't think we forced them to do a separate service.
No,
No.
Like in any.
No, this,
No.
It's gonna cost more. I mean, they're gonna have to pay, connection fees and
This-
impact fees
this-
and all that kind of stuff for each one.
when the statement comes out, it's gonna tell them what they could do.
Yeah.
Not what they have to.
well, and
In other words,
understanding
You wanna share
sewer,
all services you could.
yeah, sewer and
That's-
water won't be an option though. They have to hook onto their current utilities. Yeah,
So, well,
it'll
we
only
gotta
be
spell
gas
that
and
out.
electric,
These
yeah.
are non-option.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the things that came back from that, like you're saying, was, is the utility in the street sufficient size
Yeah.
for all those connections?
And that's probably where it came from, the fact that they did not want separate connections.
That's why they didn't want the separate
That
connections.
makes sense.
If I had a property that I could do that and was a landlord, I would want separate connections on the gas and electricity simply because they'll probably, who knows how, if you include the utilities, you can only imagine, oh, utilities are paid for, I can do anything I want.
Ideally, all of them being
Yeah.
separate in a perfect world would be the best.
Right,
But-
right. I'd want it separate.
But that was the big question is, are the utilities, that's why they wanted them connected, at least initial discussions.
Electricity would be so easy to separate. I mean, there's nothing to
Just
that.
run it off the other meter.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's nothing compared to
Right.
and those are very different in a capacity standpoint than what we're talking about sewer and water.
Yeah,
They're just
sewer and
very-
water is totally different. Okay, so you'll pursue that. Okay,
Yes.
it will require a conditional use permit, must meet and comply with all city building.
So it
blah,
means
blah.
they have to have public hearing.
Yes, they have to do, and
So
this
neighbors
is
will be
not, this
aware.
is a conditional use. It's not an unconditional use, okay? And we'll have to make that language consistent with what the other language says, okay? Setbacks and boundary distances, we say 6 feet from any existing structure, and setbacks 15 feet, and that
Change
is
that.
from the side.
Yeah, we changed that
Yeah, that's what, where we.
to meet the same
The
setbacks
same, right?
as,
10,
as,
14.
as a detached 10 and 14 or whatever, something, yeah,
Whatever our current,
right.
because they can't encroach on, like, I wouldn't want my neighbor building it and now being closer to me than they could have before.
I've received a few concerns about people peeping in back windows from their house. So they want us to, we need to regulate where the windows and stuff go. No, we,
No.
Okay, so that's just mirror whatever the current reg says.
the 6 feet away from any existing structure should be there.
Okay, we want to make sure this next 7 has language that's very explicit. And they have a total allocation of 20% space for accessory buildings.
Where did that come from? Just pulled out or what?
No, that's in accessory building cannot exceed, isn't that from our ordinance?
I think that's from
okay.
our
That's-
ordinance.
that's-
It's
That's
in
from
all
our
the,
ordinance.
it's pretty much like a state thing.
That's 20% of your
It's in
lot?
there somewhere.
The back half of your lot, you can't cover more than 20% of your rear lot.
Makes sense, you don't want like 2 houses,
The
basically.
bigger question I had was, do swimming pools count?
And we said no.
Like count toward the 20%?
Yeah.
Like it would be used
Swimming
up?
pool is not a
Okay,
structure.
It's not a structure.
Let's don't be against,
No, I don't.
let's don't be
Yeah, part of
against
that's
swimming
the thing.
pools here, come on.
Yeah.
Let's be pro swimming pool.
And it's permeable.
Oh, the swimming pool is permeable?
Yeah.
If it's above ground, it's a structure.
What do I not know about swimming pools?
It's part of landscaping. and-
Now, there you go. Now, there, you can squeeze it in.
Let's build you a swimming pool. Let's get you one in your backyard.
Well, and it's conserving water. They're not sprinkling grass.
Conserving water.
It does conserve water. It definitely does.
Actually,
Except every time you do a cannonball and fill it back up.
Well, it depends on how many times they drain it.
I think my friend had
Big guy doing a cannonball.
my friend had a pool. My friend had a pool for 8 years, and you don't drain it.
For a week.
Yeah, you don't drain it,
You're right.
Because you don't have-
You don't want the groundwater to pump up.
And you don't have anywhere to drain it to.
You just freeze it.
So that makes
Use
sense
the
if you
same
drain my
one.
pool
I
right
I
out.
stand corrected.
I don't mean to, I got us on the wrong track,
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry.
Don't talk pools
Okay,
right
keep
now.
going.
Number 7, yeah.
So the language will make it clear that you have a 20% max. And whatever you have used already for an accessory building is part of that 20%.
Yeah.
That's when the
So if you have
language,
the big, huge
so if you've got a,
pole barn,
Yeah, it's already used toward,
it's already used to it.
which is great.
And-
Because otherwise you're gonna end up with people with a pole
Multiple.
barn, an accessory building,
Oh.
a shed, and a pool.
and
The pole barns,
I'm hanging out with those
if
people.
they want to try to convert the interior of the pole barn, it has to meet the residential code.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So this should say something like including existing accessory dwelling unit or accessory buildings or something like that. Otherwise, I would interpret that as still like
Okay.
it has something 20%.
yeah, that's good. That's, yeah.
Even like 20% of
Yeah.
open space within the setback limitations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something, making,
Existing
yeah, exactly
structures
clear to
there.
say existing
And
buildings.
we'll read this again, but I want that to be very explicitly clear, so nobody comes in and tries to do an end run on us. So provide sufficient off-street parking, 2 additional parking spaces.
You skipped over 8, size limitation.
Oh, okay, it's 400 is the minimum, and the maximum is 1,000.
So we take out 500 square feet,
I think you should be able to do 2 stories.
20-foot max height,
Where's the single, yeah.
20-foot max height.
And is it only one use? Like, okay, most people are building these, they're gonna have a garage on the bottom, they're gonna have living space up top. Why is that not acceptable?
Okay, you're,
Why?
as the non-primary building,
Yeah.
As long as it's not bigger than your primary house.
Like why? Because
Because
If
now I
I'm-
have direct view in my neighbor's backyard and everything else.
we have ones already that are doing this.
We'll get a lot of complaints about that.
I just see, like, if you're building this, if you're the owner, I'm thinking, okay, I'm probably not just building it so that maybe I am, so that I can just rent it, but why would I not want a space I can also have to store stuff?
Like a kitchen, living room, and then upstairs to like a bedroom.
No, I'm not
No,
talking
she's
about the
talking about
single,
downstairs
I'm talking
apartment.
about being able to have another use. The single story thing that isn't my concern. It's that using it for not only just this one
I'll tell you where I
structure.
was coming from this. Is I didn't want to have a double-story living space.
And I can limit
And
that. I
that's
can
what
limit that.
That's what in my mind was driving. We
Then-
don't want you to stack 2 stories and then you've got
Yeah.
potentially 2 dwelling units and.
I'm
one-
okay with that. It's
You
that
understand?
most people that are gonna wanna build these wanna say, I'm building a shop and I get to rent it out because that's how I'm affording the shop, or.
But there's still,
that's-
it's still limited.
Right, to the living
That's what I'm
space,
saying,
but the
those
shop could be,
It can be, as long as
shop
they
could
don't,
be 2,000 square feet
long as
and
it
then
doesn't
above you've
exceed
got
the
1,000
20%.
square feet.
as long as it doesn't exceed the 20% footprint.
But if you're building it, wouldn't it make more sense to stack it?
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Oh,
Not-
I agree with you.
I would
No,
sure.
hold on, stacking what?
I mean, in other words,
living
he's
space?
saying, well, just put the garage to the side and use up to 20%. And I'm saying, if you're constructing it and you're putting in a
Oh, yeah,
foundation
I
and
would stack
everything,
it.
you'd go vertical. Why wouldn't you do
Because you'd
that?
have the big shop with the big ceilings, and then you'd put the living space above, has its own entrance, and then the renters rent that. I mean, there's literally on Far West, or not Far West Drive, Heritage Ranch Drive, there's a garage that they built that has a living space they're renting out right there. And the same thing, it just door on the
I
side, they're
didn't come up
living.
with the 20-foot maximum height. The committee did.
Yeah,
Well, the maximum height's gonna stay.
well, no, because you can't do a 2-story and 20.
Then I oppose. I don't.
It's gotta be 28 feet. That's a typical 2-story.
How do you do
Okay,
2 stories
then-
as the
then-
maximum
then
20-foot
somebody's
height?
gonna say, okay, then I'm back in your camp. Because then they're gonna say, okay, if it's an accessory building, it can only be this high. But if you live in it, you're gonna allow it to be taller. And so the neighbors now got a taller
Our
building.
accessory building height is only 20 feet. That's not
Well,
right.
it's 20 unless they set it back. And then you have to,
change.
then you have to,
Why
okay.
would we used to have that same allowance?
Yeah.
If they can have
Well, okay,
accessory
then-
building.
Okay, well, then we'll put it the very same thing as an accessory building, and if they wanna stack it, they've gotta put it farther than the setback has to be
Absolutely.
more.
Why would we not leave that consistent?
That would be 3 of us.
But I would want language that there can only be one level
I'm fine
of
with
building,
Well,
dwellings.
Of living, yeah,
Of
of
living
one
space.
one level of living space, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Why restrict it to that if you can allow 2 stories? Why not limit it to 1,000 square feet of livable space?
There you go.
And then you have a smaller
So if
footprint,
they decide they want.
and if they wanna go a
If they
little
wanna bump
taller.
up, they can bump up.
Then they can
Instead of-
still have maybe a little razor garage, but then separate the living space.
Okay, if you say, that is gonna be a weird looking structure.
Oh, yeah.
A 500 square feet stacked,
If they,
Different than a little
but we're
shed.
talking more of 1,000,
Two
so.
garages,
no, but here you're talking, how tall is a 2-story?
28 typically, and
So
that is
you're
high.
talking
They
28
probably are
feet
24.
tall, Then it's only got 500 square feet.
Well, if they
That's-
wanted
that's-
to.
You said of living space,
Garage is
right?
500
Yeah, I
square
got a
feet.
1,000-foot max of living space, so you could put 500 square feet
Upstairs
down
and
and
downstairs.
that's 500 square feet up.
Yeah.
No, I understand that. It just would be a weird looking building.
500 square feet is probably the size of this room. Oh, it's this is probably a little bit bigger.
And let's see, and.
So if you cut this room in half and then stack the other one on top.
No, it would be two of these.
Wait, you're
'cause
saying
this is 500.
square feet?
It's probably a little bigger than that, but
Bigger than 500.
This is a lot bigger than 500.
okay. Take the to the doorway this way. Shut
That
up.
might be like 70 feet
Yeah,
there.
think about this much of it right over there.
No.
So 30 by 30 is 900 square
You
feet.
can make me get out my phone measuring thing.
I think you're gonna want a kitchen, you're gonna want maybe like a little bit of a living space and then a room for them, right? And a bathroom.
So it would end up being
The
kind of like
building
a
code- the
townhome.
building
thing,
code
little garage on the
requires-
side, you got your kitchen, living room downstairs, all the
Bathroom,
bedrooms upstairs,
And a
a
sleeping
bathroom,
area.
and all
That's
the
it.
living
But if you're gonna
bedrooms
rent it out,
upstairs.
you probably
Honestly, from
want-
a cost, well, unless they can't
Building
fit it, from a
code
cost
requires-
effectiveness side, they're gonna
The
do
health
one
department
level.
only requires a bathroom.
The whole idea is you're not,
The sleeping room and the front room can be the
you're
same.
talking about You're worried about a primary
Put a
dwelling.
kitchenette in it as well.
No, I could
No.
draw you
Hot
up
plate or
a
whatever,
sweet
too.
little cottage.
Yeah.
They just put a nice
Two
kitchenette in there.
stories high and 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
I think you do that and you limit it to like.
What would that put a side dimension on that? I'm just curious what this thing would look.
What do you mean?
A wall. In other words,
25
so
feet
you've
by
got
25
500
feet.
square
25 by 25.
Yeah,
25
That's
by
a perfect
25.
square.
yeah,
2 stories high, that's 1,000 square feet.
yeah.
And then a little garage on the side.
Come on, 30 by 40, I wasn't far off.
Okay. Our committee made a recommendation. It's now before the planning commission to exercise their judgment, their good judgment.
I don't see why we care about the 2-story part.
Okay, so we're,
No higher than the
well,
primary.
we're all
It's not
good. that it can
2
be
stories, it
2
says-
stories. as
It
long
says
as they
20
meet
feet
setbacks
max peak height.
for height.
Yes, but no higher than the primary building.
You don't want your
And no higher than the
secondary,
primary building.
no taller than your primary
Sure.
residence, because you don't want them to have a 2 tiny home.
Yeah, make sure we got a little chimney in the back.
Within 1,000 feet maximum square foot livable space.
Yeah, that's right.
So I like the idea of the garage underneath, 1,000 foot livable above.
You could even do a single story with a nice pitched roof and then put a room upstairs or rooms upstairs.
I just don't want, I
So-
mean, most people are going to build these to benefit for themselves and to rent. They aren't building them in our community right now. They aren't building it just solely for rental.
Let's make the list of requirements. It can be 2-story.
Yes.
Still can't exceed 1,000 square feet
Of livable
Of
of
space.
livable space.
Yeah.
Not including a garage?
Not including.
Not including the
Because-
garage.
Well, because what about the,
Square feet.
what about the extra uses? Cause I could envision a 2,000 square foot
I was thinking
footprint.
500.
Because what if they put a big old giant garage on this? I mean, you don't care about that?
No, no, if they're,
For the tenant
so
though?
what you're saying is if
I
they
don't know,
have a
there's two
What they
garage
put in for
underneath,
themselves.
Conversations going on
they
right now.
can have a 1,000 square foot living
That's what they're
space.
saying.
above.
That's not what I'm
As
saying.
long as it's
What-
not
what are you
exceed
guys
20%
saying?
of your lot.
What's wrong with that?
I didn't hear what you were saying.
No, we're saying that the size limit is the living space size limit. So if the bottom was nothing but shop, garage,
Yeah.
play area, then they could have a 1,000 square foot living space above the garage.
Yeah. Above maybe a 2,000 square foot footprint.
As long as it's
You do
not-
make a good point, but it needs to be shown that it's not their garage, it's used as a shop
And it's
elsewhere.
still gonna have the limit of the 20% of their lot, right? So it can't
Yeah.
be so
Yeah.
huge. They're still gonna have to be reasonable.
2,000 square foot footprint.
Well, I'm saying, say,
That's definitely not where we were aiming.
well, no, you're
We're
not,
not-
Well, no, we talked about
let
that.
me explain
If
it.
somebody puts in a big shop and they put in 1,000 square feet of that shop is livable space, it doesn't matter as long as they meet the 20%.
So he could,
Right.
so you could have a shop on one side. So what's the difference between a shop on one side and living space on the other side versus a shop/garage underneath in the living space?
It depends on how big your lot is.
Yeah, if they don't have a big enough lot.
If you don't have
they
a big
go
enough
up.
lot, yeah,
And
and
you
you
go
don't,
vertical,
yeah, you
As
go
long as you're
vertical.
not bigger than
which
your
a
primary.
lot of people would go vertical for
Yeah.
that reason. I think they go
But are you
vertical.
understanding that the base of it that's not livable square footage would be the use of the primary owner? It would not be the use of the person renting the space. Does that make sense? I mean, they could
Now,
use it
why would
whatever.
you do that?
Well, because you're talking about the livable square footage. You're talking about a
I
rental.
would say the person that owns it can decide whatever he uses that.
A garage door, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would not put that requirement.
Well, that's a weird thing to,
You could tell the renter, they could.
Dabble
drive-
in.
you-
No, it does mean that they,
Okay,
if they're,
that's
if they're
fine.
down to 500 and they
Then
wanna
they're-
just
they
park
can
their
have a garage,
car
yes.
out of the
Okay.
weather, they could park their car in their garage and store their
just
stuff in
think of
it.
the typical model. The typical model is that the owner has built a shop and they put living space in it, and now they're able to rent out the living
And they
space.
can, and they
There
can
you
do
go.
that. you
Do
know.
whatever they
But
want.
I would not
They
restrict
could
it.
also build a garage under and say, hey, tenants, this
Yes,
garage is
yes,
yours.
yes.
Yeah, in other words, I wouldn't put a restriction.
Yeah, no,
It's
that's
at the
fine.
discretion of the
That's
owner.
fine, yeah.
Providing the height requirements are the same as any other.
Yeah.
Yeah, the setback
It can't
requirement.
exceed it can't exceed the main house, the height.
Yeah.
That one I've got underlined, yeah.
Thank
We
you.
don't, we
That
want.
one's gotta be important.
Oh, that's cute. What is that thing back there?
It's my 3-story, 5x5 structure.
Got my living room here.
We don't
Yeah.
call it a dwelling unit, we call it a tower.
Yeah.
With a little cottage on the top.
Perfect for the Keebler Elves.
Treehouse back there.
Yeah.
Okay, boy, we ever covered ground. Okay, so we would allow 2 stories.
Yes.
I would just
The dwelling
restrict,
space-
I would just restrict the height to the same as a detached structure. And leave it at that. If they can fit a 2-story in there, that's up to them. That's not up to us to make it 2-story. That's up to them to make it 2-story.
Well,
And
it
that way
cannot
it's-
exceed the
and that
height.
way it's
We're gonna say
consistent.
that.
That way it's consistent.
But you still need to tell them somewhere that they can't, there can be 2 levels to this.
Not necessarily. That's up to them to figure that out.
We can put the
You can
max,
put the height thing
so
in.
put the max up to 24, right? Is that what
Okay,
you
maybe
said?
that's better and not
But the
suggesting,
height-
just tell them it can't exceed the height of the
Right.
primary
Yeah,
dwelling unit.
and,
And
and it
and the
can't
setbacks have to
exceed-
comply.
right, and it can't exceed more than 1,000 livable square footage.
Okay, so
That's
the
what it just
setbacks as described in accessory dwelling units.
Are bathrooms considered livable? Because what happens if you have this?
Habitable.
Yeah.
If,
You can have- you can
will
have-
you let me finish my sentence? Please, thank you. This is what I'm thinking. You have the 1,000 livable square footage, that's the place that's rented. And then what happens if you have the shop that the owner's using and he wants a bathroom in it? Now you can talk.
The bathroom would be separate than the rental, so it's like a house.
But
Bathroom
will
would
we
consider
define that
square.
separate? Because I want my,
Nate,
okay, because I want my 1,000 square feet for the tenant and I probably want my bathroom still.
Okay.
the problem with that, the only problem I have with that is what's to stop them coming in and framing in the rest of it? So now they
Don't
have 2
worry-
of them.
Don't worry about that
Well,
piece.
Problem is you
In
have to
your
worry about
shop, your
that.
man cave, you want a restroom. And is that gonna deduct the, 30 square feet for my restroom? Is that gonna deduct off my livable square
Probably
footage?
not.
I wouldn't, I can't. And he's got a sink, a shop that's got a sink in it.
Okay, I just wanna make sure we're on the same page with that.
You know, just state that as long as that restroom is not attached
It doesn't become
to
habitable.
the
Okay,
living.
Dwelling
It doesn't
unit.
It doesn't become livable space.
Wow.
What does that mean? You can't put your toothbrush in there?
Well, here's the problem, here's the.
What happens when your
the
wife
health
kicks you
department
out?
You can put toothbrush in there, but don't you put your
No.
toothpaste in there.
No
And
toothpaste,
couches,
okay.
no pull-out couches.
You can have pull-out couches.
You can have a doghouse in there, but not a couch.
Okay,
Okay,
let me try to distill this. This
Good
is
luck.
gonna be fun.
Good
I'm
luck.
gonna take the first cut and then Darren, I'm gonna turn this over to you after that. Okay, we're not gonna specify the number of stories. We just say it cannot exceed the height of the primary dwelling unit. You're gonna say the setback requirements have to comply with the same requirements for any accessory building, which
Like
means
Mhm.
that's the height
and then they
requirement.
stick to the percentage. You're hitting
And then
all
we're
3
sticking
parts.
with the percentage, yeah. Is that,
So are we gonna go with the same ordinance though with because I think accessory buildings on the property, it's 14 feet and everything, every foot above that comes a foot
I'm
off.
gonna use the very same verbiage.
Yeah.
The setback is gonna be, I'm gonna take that piece on the setback and just take it right out of that ordinance and plug it.
Let's just cut it 6 feet by doing that.
This will probably be a parallel piece of the ordinance. It'll be labeled as such. We'll have many of the same elements, a lot of the same language, but there'll be some unique language that's unique to this.
We
Okay.
would never want an accessory dwelling to be any different to the neighbor than we would an accessory building.
That's exactly. In other words, it can't be any closer, any taller. It can't be any closer to the street.
Aesthetically, all of
That was consistent with what we were trying. If you're gonna put it in there, it's not gonna be not have any special privileges that an accessory building would not have, okay? So, and I think we're consistent with that, okay?
You're doing great.
Take a deep breath.
Sorry, we're throwing a lot at you.
Okay, provide sufficient off-street parking. You're having no problem with 9, right?
Hard surface does not have to be necessarily pavement or asphalt.
Gravel.
It just says a hard surface.
Okay, okay.
That's what we definitely,
Wanna make
yeah.
sure.
It just depends on whatever.
Okay, and that was what we
A
thought.
drivable surface, really.
Doesn't have to be necessarily.
Okay,
drivable,
so tell me
That's where
what
they
you want
park their
instead of
vehicles.
hard surface.
No, I'm fine with it, as
That's
long as
fine.
we're under the understanding that
That
hard
was
surface does not mean an extension of
asphalt.
concrete.
A hard surface though in stormwater world,
Yes.
Which
means
is
something
Robbie,
that's not
which is Robbie.
He's talking about
Impermeable.
impervious. Well, this doesn't
Robbie
say
was talking
impervious.
strictly asphalt or concrete.
Yeah.
Because that way, so that comes
I
out of
just wanna make
public
sure
works.
that we didn't use hard expecting that it would be concrete.
So we say
That
or
was,
gravel or rock or
You
something.
put in parentheses like concrete, gravel, or asphalt.
No, I just leave,
something.
well,
You could just leave it alone.
yeah, I was gonna say, I would
Hard
leave hard
surface is
surface.
an understood term.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it
Just
that
It
leave
could
way.
be road
Not the
base.
road
it could
base.
be-
Yeah.
Because I can't believe they're gonna jump at putting in concrete or even asphalt if they don't have to. Why would they?
For an apron,
It just makes any sense. Okay, 10, prefab units are to be placed on approved footing and foundation.
Yeah, so like those prefabs out of the shed place over there.
Oh,
They have nice, they have some nice ones there.
They have some
And
ones
they
that
do
are like,
all do, like, the whole building code's met inside them, okay.
I mean.
I'm thinking like wheeling in a
They walk
trailer.
through.
They have to make,
No, no,
they have to construct them in accordance with the building code.
Yeah. Yeah, they have electrical in them, they have
Yeah.
everything. Okay, okay.
But the framing is the big thing.
And the
Too thick?
public works people didn't seem to have any trouble with that. They were their main concern was
Did
when
Public
you,
Works come to the last work session? Or did you talk to them when you guys
No,
were
this
doing
isn't
your?
their.
I'm talking about in our committee meeting, they were in every single meeting.
Oh, good.
And
There are
have
committee
given us their
meetings.
input, for which we're grateful, but their main concern was meet building code and make darn sure there's an acceptable foundation under this thing.
Yeah.
You know, that was the main thing that they were worried about, more than anything. Okay. Corner lots may provide a secondary access point and meet the UADU. What is that?
Setbacks for lot placement requirements. So this is what they were saying, what the thought was is you have your primary driveway here. If you're on a corner lot, you want them to come in over here if they want to. It allows them to come in off the other road.
Now, I'm pleading ignorance. This is an acronym for what again?
Accessory,
Accessory area dwelling unit.
external accessory.
External
dwelling.
I hate
accessory.
acronyms. Thank you.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
Literally,
okay.
literally, yeah.
Can you tell?
Did you just have a mini stroke? Cause it's literally what you typed up.
Lady J typed this up.
Oh, okay.
I have this aversion to acronyms, okay?
After you just read it 17
No,
times.
I never read the EAUD. I read
Okay.
external accessory dwelling units. You notice I have not been using that.
I hate when they do that, all of a sudden start using abbreviations.
Especially ones
Then
that.
I've gotta go back up and
What
figure
I
out.
hate is a sentence, and if the sentence contains about 5 elements in it, each one of which is an acronym, and there's a verb in there, and that's all the sentence contains. That's assuming a lot of an 80-year-old senile person, so
You're not.
cut me some slack.
I'm not 80.
I am 80.
You're
Yeah.
80?
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
80. Wow. You don't look 80 at all.
Well, when you get.
It's starting to creep up.
It's
now.
creeping up. I didn't notice it at 75, but it starts to creep up. So if I have mental lapses, you
That's
will be
okay.
kind, won't
Yeah,
you?
the corner lots was basically allowing 2 driveways. The corner lot thing was basically allowing 2 driveways, as long as the EADU met the setback requirements.
Okay.
That's the other thing too, because we don't care too much about curb cuts as long as they're not too close to the property lines, that they can have another curb cut.
Yeah, and we didn't say we didn't specify how close, or, that could be right next to
And
the
Nate's-
property.
Nate's fine with them as long as they're like
Well, I
a
mean,
little bit off the
really,
property
that
line.
shouldn't bother the neighbors. I mean,
Well, think about how many
anything
people
more than
are
how
into
you,
it.
whatever you do with your backyard, I mean, in fact, it might be maintained better because you got a drive on it, as opposed to throw your junk
Oh,
there,
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Well, otherwise
So-
it would be them coming into your regular driveway and then turning off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay.
12, kind of obvious, I think.
Pay the
I don't
applicable
really,
fees.
can that be reworded somehow?
Yes, want to reword it?
Well, I just don't, it doesn't, all applicable fees. It
Building
all,
permit.
well, yeah, but why is that
Well,
even?
now,
a
do we even put language to that effect
No.
for the accessory dwelling units?
They're gonna have
They're
to.
just gonna have
You
to,
need to be there?
No,
Yeah.
and it sounds weird.
they're gonna have to go through a process. The
Well, if-
process is gonna make them pay the fees, make them do all the
Yeah,
dancing, so.
but yeah, and
They
they have,
want to put it in there.
Okay, I'm gonna say this, if we don't have any language to that effect already in the ordinance for accessory units. or
We have it under
accessory-
conditional use, that you have to
accessory
pay the
buildings,
applicable
let's
fees.
not put it in.
is it under that?
I don't know, that's what I'm
I don't
asking.
think so.
But what was, I was talking to you.
Under the
I was
conditional use,
violating-
Weird, yeah,
You
strange.
should have called me on it.
I'm okay with it.
Geneva has no qualms
Yeah.
about calling it.
No.
You didn't call me.
fees
I'll
are,
let you stand up for yourself.
fees are related to permits and stuff like
Yeah,
that, building
Which is
permits.
building
So
code.
do we
Okay.
need to put something in here that says that, all building
You can
requirements?
say all applicable city and building fees shall apply,
Yeah.
if you wanted to put it in there.
Can
Yeah,
I-
city,
can I
Process.
say,
but it's
why
build,
we don't
building
put
code.
that in
We don't put it in
the
anything.
accessory buildings, why would we put it here?
Just strike it.
Don't we need to put something like?
But is it
follow the
in-
Process? Or
I don't think,
process?
all the fee part is not, the process part we can put in, but the fee part,
Okay, let's just, I think we ought to eliminate it. Okay.
this one is weird next.
They will share the same address, it has
This was a
to.
requirement by fire.
I'm okay, but if it's sharing the address, but the AB 12, I'm okay with that, as long as you know the post office is not going to accept that.
It
So
will not?
fire will know, I don't think so. Cause if you're a commercial building, you have suites, that's one thing, but as a unit that way, the post office isn't going to deliver them separate mail.
Well,
if
and
that's what
quite
your
frankly,
intent
that's
is.
the only reason for having that in there.
That's what that was about.
Well, but if it's a fire where the fire wants to know that it's in structure A, that's something different, but the post office is not going to accept that.
Well, they were talking about separate mailboxes.
Yeah, and I have the postmaster's number, you guys can call him, but they
They're-
won't
They
usually
have to
do
get
that.
They're gonna
P.O.
choke
box,
on
right?
that one.
Yeah, they'll have
Not
to
me,
get,
I don't
You're not
care.
gonna get away with that.
I don't care. I'm just saying that's what came out of the committee.
who's gonna choke on it?
Was
The
that was
post
the
office
thought.
is not gonna put in a second box
Because
for a
all of a
building
sudden,
that's in the
yes.
same lot.
Exactly. Well, and just because it's already
We don't wanna post those
pre-existing,
private.
like, they've planned their
They'll probably
routes,
just have them
their
get a P.O.
thing,
box.
their things like that, so.
So if you're not, if the postal service is not gonna acknowledge that, what purpose does it serve?
Fire.
That's the only thing I would check with. If fire has an issue that they don't go to the right, like they get a fire code for an address and it's not specified that it's in the back. That could be the only thing, but
They should see.
I don't
They
even-
drive by. They drive by and they're like, can't be
You need-
this house. Freaking nice. Behind.
you need to ask them that though, because I don't even know that the city will re-address those.
It's the same address with the one.
Well, I know, but if it's a real address, you need to know that the city and the
And
county
I would
will,
opt for A or B.
I don't care.
The reason why I say that is it's just one more digit and then everybody's gonna say, well, did you make a mistake? You know, your address is 1211 and you put down 12.
you could do
111.
unit 1
Apartment B.
or A or apartment B, but you
No,
need,
I'm saying a letter makes it less confusing
Yeah.
than just adding another number on an
but you
already
need,
existing
you need
number.
to check with Lindsay because I don't know that the county will record another address. Because it's
I don't think
one
we-
lot.
Unless you're re-recording the plat.
Not if it's, hold on. Right, yeah, I don't think you're getting
it's not
another
separate.
address.
Okay, then my question to you is what purpose is served?
It doesn't because
It doesn't.
it doesn't because
Then
we're
why
not
do we-
subdividing the
let's
lot.
just-
So,
Right.
so I would give them, with the mail, I'd give them the option to either,
I'll check with
either-
I'll check with, well, we know it's not gonna
No.
tolerate it.
hey, you're talking over
You
me.
can ask Lindsay, but I don't think you're going to get a second address on one lot. You're not going to.
Even it's not gonna be recorded, it won't do anything.
That's
Well,
right.
and the other
Except for
part
maybe
is,
the owner of the property, he thinks, oh, maybe this is actually my renter's mail.
but that's part of being the
That's
resident.
That's a fair issue.
He's gonna have to go in the box and separate it every day anyway. Doesn't
That's
matter
part
whether
of,
you put A
that's
or
part
B
of
or
the
what.
joys of that kind of stuff. You just
Usually
deal with
you
it.
have them get.
I would strike.
Or yeah, or they can get a
They
PO.
go get their own P.O. box.
Yeah.
They go pick up their.
That's what I was going to say. They can share your mailbox or they can go get a PO box if they want.
That's exactly right.
private
If it's-
mail.
If it's the landlord, it's the landlord's responsibility, it's not our.
That's the solution right there.
Yeah, go get a PO.
Yeah.
And if in the,
If they put their address, if they put their name as being at that address, the mail should
and
come
that's a
under
landlord
under their
decision.
name.
It's like, okay, I don't wanna be bothered by this, so you're gonna have to get a PO box. I can't believe anybody,
No.
man, if.
And nowadays,
that
nothing
bothers you, you
comes in
gotta-
the mail. I mean, Amazon comes to your porch.
You don't even get anything good in the mail anyway.
Yeah, seriously, junk.
Junk mail.
And it's gonna go private anyways
I
for a
love
couple
my
of years, so.
You know, in fact, if I were the landlord, I would say, I will share my mailbox on one condition,
You rip up my
that you
spam.
rip up all my junk
Yes,
for me.
me too.
Or you pay all my bills.
Well,
that-
I don't know how well that'll fly.
Okay, what about these additional considerations?
Yeah,
The only thing before we go to additional considerations, the only thing I might add in as a 13, if we took 12 out, is that whatever process this needs to go through. Shall comply with, whatever process. There must be something in the accessory, like, it still needs to go to planning commission, it's gonna need to have.
It's a conditional use process, it's basically.
Oh, okay, as long as that's clear
No,
that
it is-
that's
it
the
will be done a
process.
lot, But I mean, and the conditional use is pretty excruciating in what you've
And
got to
is
go
the
through on that.
conditional use including a site plan, or they'll come for the conditional use and then the rest will be held through building?
If they came, basically right now, when they come with a conditional use for an accessory building that's too big, they have to show us plans and so
Okay.
forth. Okay,
So they
that's,
show a plan, but we won't be accepting from an engineering standpoint, a site plan.
well, and that's kind of the,
Leave that for
it's kind of
Debbie.
covered where they say they've got to meet all of the building code requirements.
Okay, so that will be handled at building. I just wanna make sure we're clear of what is coming in
Right,
front of
We
us.
don't do that anyway, in a primary residence, once we know what the footprint looks like and the setbacks and all of that, we don't pay any attention to what they
Yep.
do inside the building. So why would this be any different?
One thing I
Okay.
might want to add before we run out of time is we need to remember that the purpose of this is not to guarantee every lot owner the opportunity to build an ADU on it. That's not our responsibility, and that's not our purpose. If you buy a house and it's too big for your lot, that's your fault. We're not guaranteeing the right for every person to put an ADU on their lot.
I'm
Well,
happy about this whole thing.
and don't you think they get that message when they see all the restrictions?
It's as simple as
If you're gonna do it, it's gotta be this, it's gotta be this, it's gotta be this,
It's
it's
the same
gotta
as
be
an
that.
accessory building, not every lot can fit an accessory building. No different.
Then they decide if it's worth it.
I think what's gonna kill 90% of the people that have this in their mind is when they realize they can't just retrofit what they've already got. When they gotta go in and build a legitimate building, I think that will slow down the flow.
If you have a pole barn, all those alls in between the poles have to have footings and foundations.
Okay, given that I'm 80 years old, I will try my best to draft this.
Hey, I'll be 33 next week, guys.
Oh,
Don't
geez.
forget, Wednesday's my
Oh,
birthday.
You've only got a
can
couple
send
more, you've only got a
presents to
couple
my
more
house.
years left,
Like,
Geneva.
seriously, I know, 35 retirement.
Holy cow, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
That is disgusting.
Oh, my God.
Couple years left. Okay, so what's the game plan? Sorry, I
Well,
sidetracked.
what
you.
I would suggest is you have your homework.
Yep,
And
I'm
you
gonna
can
call
get that
Bob
back
Vista.
to me.
Yep.
And, I may have to ask somebody to refresh my memory because my notes are so scrambled. I'll try to reconstruct them tomorrow. And then what I'll do is get internally in our code and try to make this match what we've already got. So it's gonna be an insert that will parallel in some degree what we've already got for accessory buildings, okay? And reflect this. Okay?
Yeah.
I want to compliment the committee of which I was a member. The housing committee spent quite a bit of time chewing on this to come up with these bullets for you. So, and you didn't really have much against most of the decisions they made, so.
Yeah, you
And the
guys
ones that
did-
we stalled on, we spent a lot of time on that
I have to say,
committee,
you guys did a
going
really
back
good
and
job.
forth and back and forth on it, so.
Yeah.
I think it's a good addition to our code. I've always wondered why I wasn't there myself.
So the next rendition that comes out, well, I'll remember. We probably need to have Liam get his eyes on this. But I'll put it in my notes that when we do that.
So what we'll do is go another round of this next work session. If it looks pretty good, then we'll route it to Liam to make sure that we haven't tripped over ourselves.
Perfect.
And then we're probably lining it up for public hearing. Or unless we want to have a joint meeting with the city council on this.
We might be able to roll the PUD one and this one in. I don't know, it's probably too much. But yes, we probably need to have a joint.
Just,
I'll let you talk to David because he's city council and you ask him what he.
well, we've had two
Oh, yeah,
representatives from the city council already involved in this, so it's not like it's gonna be a shock to
I
do
also
it.
think they should be called guest houses.
So, well, I think as a courtesy gesture to you,
I'm gonna call mine, I'm gonna call mine a pool
we
house.
will, after we've got it to the point we think we want to, we will invite the city council. If they want a joint meeting, they can. Otherwise, we'll proceed, go to the attorney, have our public hearing, vote on it and pass it on. Okay?
So where's the PD overlay thing at right now?
Next city council meeting, I need to request a joint work session, so it's just kind of on hold.
I just wonder if Liam's looked at it yet.
I have not sent it over to him yet, but I will probably, once we have the joint work session or sometime next week, I'll send it. It's on my list.
Okay. I'm tired.
Me too.
There's still more to go, Lou.
I can't go home yet.
Oh. Hey, but at least we're 6:30, not 7, even though you guys fought me on that. Hey, remember that tonight when we vote about meeting times and dates again. That means it's been a whole
Listen,
year.
I've made the adjustment.
Since you
However,
made-
I will note that there have been times
That
where you
I
have
have been
been
late.
tardy.
Most of
And
them.
that was my initial concern.
It's only been a couple of them, Geneva.
Oh, you're forgiving Geneva all the time.
Hey, I was here at 4 o'clock today.
I come in here at 5 and she was sitting in here. I'm thinking, what's the, she's usually late to these things.
I've
Kinda
adjusted
weird.
to it. And the most convincing thing is the city council voted, the city council voted to continue it, and to have it at a different time than when they meet
Right,
doesn't
it'd
make
be
any
weird.
sense at all, so. I'm just jumping in.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
He's like, I got life. That's fine. The agenda is very- Yeah.
I've been kind of antsy not going ice fishing this
I
way.
know, my brother wanted me to do it tomorrow and I said, there's no,
Thank you.
said, Cargill is really bad right now.
Well, I tell you, I
They're
sure
not
don't like,
catching them, I know that.
they are.
They're not.
I tell you,
Fishing slow.
that open water on that first 10 feet does not
Okay, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. We're having some camera difficulties, but the sound is on. Okay, so we apologize. You get to see the crowd tonight. Okay, I didn't ask anyone for the prayer or the pledge, so good luck. Greg's gonna lead us in the pledge, and Lou is going to lead us in the prayer. Will everyone stand for the pledge?
Move your heads and follow me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful to meet as a planning commission this evening. We express our gratitude for the opportunity to live in a free country and for the great community in which we live. We ask thee to please bless us that during our meeting that we will exercise good judgment and fairness as we consider the items on our agenda, that we will make decisions which will be in the best interest of the residents of Far West. We say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, next up is public comment. Is there anyone in the public that would like to say anything? There is none. We're on to city report or city council report.
It's going to be a little lengthy, and I apologize for that. It's been a while since I've made a report to the planning commission. This will be regarding last week's meeting with the city council. We had one public comment from resident Kevin Taylor regarding some damage to some plants and flowers at the entrance to Cottonwood Drive, which he has over the years maintained. And he was hoping that the city might be able to help with restoring that a little bit, and he would continue to maintain it. I think the mayor addressed that, so he seemed to be happy, and that was the only public comment we had. We received a report from Lou, Planning Commission, regarding your activities, and there were no new assignments given to the Planning Commission at that time. However, the mayor reminded Lou, and I don't know whether you all remember or not, but your required 4 hours of training begins new this year. Sooner you get it done, the less you'll have to worry about it. It's only 4 hours, shouldn't be difficult for you to do that. The council approved a list of business license renewals for the with the exception of some following businesses that were requiring some additional attention, information, and verification for. I'm not going to be specific about that, but I will name you those so that you have them in your mind. Pacific TriStar Company, Associated Foods, Bella's Fresh Mexican Grill, Mountain Land Supply, Rocky Mountain Fence, Far West Auto, Utah Structures, Far West Barbershop, Thorough Clean, Reed's Creamery, and J&G Automotive. And they may only be as little as verification that they're meeting requirements for conditional uses or some other issues, but those were of some concern that the city council expressed. There was a new business license application for Power Peak. There was no representation there, so that the council tabled that business license request. Council approved council assignments as presented by the mayor. There was only one minor change. I believe that was adding trails to Katie's. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So, right. So those two minor changes were all that was changed as far as our assignments go. Council approved conditional use permit for a kennel license for Safani Parkin, as recommended by the Planning Commission. She was there to answer questions, and all of our concerns were relieved with that conversation. So that was granted. Council then had a lengthy discussion. So wait a minute. There was also a conditional use permit for Steve Peterson's addition to his accessory building. And we approved that as requested by the Planning Commission as well. City Council then had a lengthy discussion on the application for the rezone of the West Creek development from A1 to the new ICZ zone. The council then approved the rezone with the following conditions: the development agreement to require restrictions on Cottonwood Drive access and the mitigation of warehousing and wholesale being used as 100% of any single unit or facility. The council then had another lengthy discussion regarding the West Creek development agreement. The council tabled that first, and then we untabled it, went back into some further discussions. And basically, the council ended up approving the development agreement with the restrictions again for access on Cottonwood Drive to be mitigated and with participation from the developer. And that the land use would comply with the ICZ zone, with the exception that within each structure, wholesale and warehousing shall not be permitted as a sole or exclusive use. So if they have small amount of warehouse or wholesale in the facility and the rest of it's commercial, that's okay. But if they want to build 5 units and do nothing but warehousing there, that will not be permitted. And that was the condition of the council required in that approval of the development agreement. Council went on to approve the adoption of the USWAC, and I'm not sure what that means exactly, but it's the Preferred BMP's Standard Operating Procedures and Documents. It's a statewide thing. There was no issues from our engineering department, so the council did approve the adoption of those operating procedures.
US is USWAC, Utah Stormwater Area Coalition.
There you go. Thank you. I appreciate that. I wasn't sure exactly what that meant, and I didn't want to mess it up, so thank you. The council then reestablished our date and times for the city council meetings, which is first and third Thursdays, beginning at 6:30 p.m. Council reestablished, no, that was it. Then we reported on our assignments. Bob then reported on the CERT organization. They had recently received an additional donation of 30 chairs, and they don't need all 30, so they would be available for other city use in this building or that other building over there. It was a good donation, and it's an asset that the city can use. Dave reported on the Youth City Council and that is progressing well. They're still looking for additional members to join, but those that have so far are very committed and very willing to serve. Boyd asked Lieutenant Horton with the Weber County Sheriff's Department for assistance in setting up the VIPs program. So they're going to work on that. It's not official in Far West like it is in some cities, so I think he was liking to continue to go towards making that an official relationship with Weber County. The mayor reported on, I didn't have anything to report. The mayor reported on the Housing Committee's progress, which in your work session, saw quite a bit of that because we addressed the EDU problem, or not problem, but situation. And we're happy to continue with that. The mayor also reported that the city will be aggressively working on code enforcement in the coming year. It's been something that has been brought up to the mayor, the city offices, even council members. I even get calls sometimes. So we feel like it's probably a good idea to make sure that that's properly enforced. That completed our meeting. We adjourned at approximately 10 minutes to 8. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our first business item. Recommendation to the city council approval or denial of a wall sign for Honey Bucket located at 2990 North, 2000 West. Is there a representative here? Do you want to come up? If they should have any questions, state your name and address, please.
I'm Robin Stout, representing Davis Signs. I live at 944 North Harrisville Road.
Sorry you had to be here, or sorry that you were here at 5:30 and had to sit through the whole work session.
Not a problem. I enjoyed that.
Any questions about it?
Is this an illuminated sign?
It is not.
That was my only question.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nope, I think it looks good.
Looks nice.
It meets the size requirements and all that, so.
If I'm kind of glad that it's on the wall and not a separate.
Yeah, right. It's not a monument
Yeah.
sign, yeah.
There are no questions. Do we have a motion?
I motion that we recommend to the city council approval of a wall sign for Honey Bucket located at 2990 North, 2000 West.
Motion by Darren,
Second.
second by Brandon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this moves on to next week's city council, 6:30, same day. Yeah, you're welcome to come at 5:30 though. I don't know there'll be as much going on, but 6:30, same room, same place. And then they'll give you your final.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, on to the next. Set a public hearing for January 23rd at 6:30 to consider amendment to the general plan for the northernmost parcel of the Far West Landing property to allow for the commercial zone. So, and cut me off if I'm wrong, this is that one portion that's left as the M1 that shows in the general plan. So this would amend it to be
The whole
contiguous
thing,
with the rest
C3
of it.
then.
It could be put back to commercial.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the plan.
This is for setting a public hearing. I guess we can move on to the next one. We do have the developers here if you want to start questions or have questions now, or however you feel.
It's consistent with what we were planning on using that property for, so I don't see any problem with it myself.
Is there a motion?
I motion we set a public hearing for January 23rd, 2025 at 6:30 PM to consider the request of a rezone of the Far West Landing property from the M1.
You're just doing it for the amendment to the general plan.
Oh, I guess I'm on that, sorry. Okay. Okay. At 6:30 to consider an amendment to the general plan for the northernmost parcel of the Far West Landing property.
Motion by Brandon,
Second.
second by Lou. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the next one, set a public hearing for January 23rd, 2025 at 6:30 to consider the request of the rezone of the Far West Landing properties from C2, M1, and A1 to the C3, 2700 North Regional Commercial Zone, including the following parcels.
So that's just the remainder of the property, right?
And putting it all into the
the
C3.
C3.
Yeah. Yep. And once again, they are here if you have questions prior to the public hearing.
Same comment. It's what we were
That's what we
envisioning
wanted.
it to be used for, so.
We have a motion?
I move that we set a public hearing for January 23rd, 2025 at 6:30 to consider request of a rezone of the Far West Landing properties from the C2, M1, and A1 zones to the following parcels.
Motion by Lyle,
Second.
second by Darren. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay. You guys on the 23rd. I'm assuming you'll have, well, they may not even need anything to present, but be prepared to ask questions about intent and property and all that. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, last business item. Confirm the dates and times of commission meetings for the second and fourth Thursday of the month at 6:30 at Far West City Hall. Are we good with this? We're
Yeah,
committed to the 6:30?
I like the 6:30.
I wish it was like 4:30.
That's good with me.
Stop, Jenny.
Work at 4:30.
Oh, gosh. Yes, I think 6:30 is great.
I move that we confirm the times.
Motion by Darren,
Second.
second by Lou. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approval of the minutes dated December 12th, 2024.
I move that we approve the minutes dated December 12th, 2024.
Motion by Lyle,
Second.
second by Brandon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Report on assignments. Greg?
None.
Better do me last.
Okay. Lou?
None.
Okay, good job on our work session and all your work. Well, everyone on that. Darren?
Just got my final draft of the PD overlay done, so,
Perfect. So you'll send that out and,
so it's out. That's
was it the one I got
the one
last?
the one that I sent out like
After
at the Monday after our last meeting.
Okay, I think I left it
So,
in my.
It should be,
Okay.
yeah, it should be in your stuff. If you need to ask me, and I'll
Okay,
resend
Brandon?
it.
I don't have anything.
Lau?
Okay, we got some great news. I got an email from Garrett Colton of GBC Contracting, and they got the first load of steel in on Monday to start fabrication of the dock. So that's the good news. The bad news is that because of Peterson, I hope I don't get fired for voicing my opinion. I will be good, I'll be kind. But I couldn't talk about this in the last meeting, but we sent, the mayor sent a request back to Peterson and asked them to take a second look. Since Peterson was sold out to Persimmon, they were also bought out by another company since all this started. So this is the second owner. And they came back, ran it at the flagpole and came back and said no. So then the mayor sent a message and said, hey, well, what about a donation? Because the Peterson way is to support the community. They came back and said no. That because of the new management, they're not in a position to do it right now and trying to wrap their heads around what's going on there. The bad news is because of Peterson's actions, instead of the dock costing $13,475, it's now costing us $50,482. The original cost of this whole grant was $54,077. So the dock now is going to cost $50,482. And then within that grouping of having Peterson do the work, it included the engineering and the drafting and the fabrication. Tom Birkeland donated his time for engineering, which is about almost $8,000 worth of time. It cost the city, it cost us $7,800 just to have the drafting done, the blueprints made. And so between the two costs of the new pricing and having to pay for the drafting, it's costing us additional $47,757. Because the reason of the lower cost at Peterson is because they were going to take they use the material out of their leftover stock, the boneyard. And that's why it was only 14 grand. So anyway, but we had a conversation with Patrick Morrison and Emily Meadows at the workshop in late November. And he said that we can probably take a second look at it. He said they've never encountered this problem before, and so they might have to, they'll work with this basically. So I spent the last 2 days on the computer poring over and getting all the figures right, and I sent an email yesterday to UORG requesting an audience with them and to see if we can get additional funding. I also contacted Chris Penny today because part of the matching grant came from the DNR. And I had a good conversation with him and I sent him the same information, supporting documentation, quotes, everything. And so I'm gonna work with Chris. Hopefully we can get some additional funding to recoup some of our costs. If it wasn't for this problem, we could have handled the extra $10,000, $15,000 in overages, but not $40,000, $50,000. And so anyway, so we're looking forward. It's finally moving forward. The dock is scheduled to be delivered late February. And also we had a park meeting this morning, and we are working feverishly on the new Meadows Park across the street from Walquist. And Katie right now is working on the grant. We've split it up into 3 different phases. And so we're working on the grant to get the infrastructure in place, the utilities and everything like that for the first phase. And she's working on that. And then I'm going to be working on maybe trying to get grants for the trails and stuff that goes around it and different things. But we talked about the Meadows quite a bit. And then we talked about the arena at the Smith Family Park. They're going to start coming up with a reservation schedule and fee schedule to use the arena out there for the rodeo arena. And then also, what else? I think that's it. Looking at increasing the lighting at the Far West Park and everything like that. We had a good meeting today and we're making progress, and hopefully we can get some more funding, and it's going to cost close to over $1 million, 1.5, I think, to complete that project out at the Meadows, but it's going to come in 3 phases. And so we're just moving forward as quick as we can. So anyway, that's all I've got.
Thank you, Lyle. Okay, I don't have a ton. Reminder on education I know the mayor reminded us about new cycle 2025, but make sure you have filled out the spreadsheet in the Dropbox for your current 2024. So we're good there. Just a few items coming up. Next city council, I will ask for their best time for a joint work session on our PD overlay, so we can wrap that up. And then coming into our next meeting, we'll obviously have a couple public hearings, some new sites there, but then you'll also see the start of River Blacksmith, now called Legends, but that mixed use, they'll start coming in for their preliminary overall site. So we'll get ready to see that. So that's kind of just coming up.
Madam Chair, could I?
Yes, of course.
Having to do with training. So next week, we're having a work session before city council where we're gonna get our annual open meetings training.
Okay.
And Liam is willing to come before you guys, or I'm gonna go ahead and say, if you guys want to, you can just join us. That would be at 6 o'clock. It would only take 30 minutes tops. So that's a consideration unless y'all want your own training session. Liam's willing to do it either way.
I'm great with the joint, but more time before because I don't know what these guys with a week of planning that all of them can make it. So
Right.
let's see
Understood.
how many they show up, and then we may have to do it.
Could I ask a question? Is that specific training required?
The open
Of us,
meetings,
yes.
yes.
Open meetings, yes. And I think the
I know
ethics
a
is
certain
too.
number of hours required, but
No.
that,
Yes.
All public bodies have to have every year the open public meetings, the open up training.
But we don't necessarily have to have that specific training.
Well, you have to have, yeah,
We
well,
have to host it again.
you're gonna have to have it one way or another. The open meetings.
Training from here.
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
that was my question.
yes. And Liam is willing to come and do it for you guys too. He'll do it twice. But I was just saying if y'all want to.
Will you send that out to an email to the planning, and then we'll see how many of us make it, and then if we have to host. Otherwise, there's quite a few, there's like an online one, and then you can do it throughout the year at other places.
Well, that was the purpose of my question. If some of us can attend that,
Yeah.
but not all of us, the ones that
Right,
can attend that are still required
Yes.
Liam will still have to come and make a second presentation.
Yes,
Or you'll have
unless
to
you do it
attend it
through some
somewhere.
online mechanisms, but it still has to be done and you have to be certified. When we
Like
go through
last year, a
audits.
couple other cities did it, like Marriott Slaterville invited us to they did it.
Yeah,
So
We-
there's some other odds and ends. that-
Yeah, and like, for instance, I've already had it because through my board at Bona Vista, we already had our training, but I'm gonna sit through it again because I still don't know what meetings are.
You like it. You like to hear it.
Anyway, it was just
Perfect.
on
Send
top
out-
of the 4 hours of training, that can be part of the 4 hours, but we have to have the open public meetings.
It's next meeting.
Next city council
Yeah,
meeting.
not
Yep.
your next meeting, the city council. Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay.
I motion, we adjourn.
Motion by Brandon,
My second.
second by Darren. All in favor, say aye. Thank you all.
You tired from the work session?
I think we're all tired. It's only January.
Got a kid to pick up.